Ibrahim Traore, Burkina Faso. Did I get it right? Because boy, when you trying to share your platform and try to spread the positive and just spread the awareness, do you know how much people DM'd me and said, "Bounce, like, thank you for sharing what's going on in Africa and what is actually happening and how peak is getting," because I would have never known. And it makes us realize sometimes we're invested in a lot of bullshit. Like, a lot of bullshit. There's so much, sometimes we do so much like research in areas that we're stuck in our small bubble, but there's things happening around the world. You get me? And I thought, you know what, let me make another video. And you know what? What I realized with me is I'm that guy where it's like anything that I say, if I say it wrong or whatnot, people always look at the negative from it and they're ready to tear man down, but there's always something positive around it. I understand that's my branding, so I'm happy to be the villain. So now it's just to be outspoken. Now, guys, this is only thing I can do is be a student to the game. The only thing that I can do is actually educate myself, educate what's going on around the world. And now that I'm building a platform, a YouTube platform, and I'm getting more and more subscribers by you guys, which I appreciate the most because you lot are actually watching and taking in the content and you lot are actually giving me positive feedback, I can, do you know what I mean? Know what I'm speaking about. Get me? Not everything that I'm going to speak about is going to be facts, but I am going to be covering this a lot. Like, I'm going to be covering what's going on. And I feel like anyone that stands up for Africa, you could be orange, pink, white, blue, black. If you stand up for what's actually happening in Africa, what's happening in Burkina Faso, what's happening there. Did I say it right? Burkina Faso. Whatever's happening there, we need to stand up and we need to kind of watch what's happening. And Russia's here, Putin's here, like. And I've done some research and I realized for the past 5 years, Putin's really been doing business. They've been doing business. They've been setting up things. So I'm going to go through a few research, what I've kind of found out, and go from there. Before I break down a few researches, what's happening, obviously I'm going to do little intervals. Let me flip my screen so you can see. This guy is a legend. You get me? He's a legend. As I'd get a lot of content from my brother here, younger brother, doing amazing. You get me? So make sure, obviously, let me go to his actual, let me press play and then go to his.
Russia has signed a deal with Burkina Faso.
Burkina
Faso has granted an industrial mining license to a Russian mining company called Nord Gold. Now, Burkina Faso is the 4th largest producer of gold in the world. So a move like this is really big and it's really bold. And it's not like Burkina Faso and Russia haven't done deals before, because in 2023, Russia made a deal with Burkina Faso to build a nuclear power plant. Now they're getting the gold from somewhere called the New Gold Deposit, which is located in one of Burkina Faso's provinces. It covers 52.8 kilometers within the exploration license held by Gilbert Burkina, which is now owned by Nord Gold. And Gilbert Burkina will hold an 85% stake, and the government of Burkina Faso will retain the remaining 15%. Now, why a deal like this is very important is because it shows how deeply entrenched Russia is within the affairs of Burkina Faso. Both countries are on a vibe of an enemy of an enemy is my friend. As Burkina Faso cuts its ties with the West, it embraces Russia and China, who are both super critical of the West. But can they be trusted? Is it neo-colonialism, new colonialism? Is it soft power? Some say only time will tell. Now, if you want to learn how different colonial powers systematically robbed individual African countries of their resources, make sure to get my ebook, Colonial Cartels. The link is in my bio. Russia has signed a deal.
Guys, you see in this thing, one thing you do know, you have to make alliances. Russia has signed a deal. They're making alliances with Africa. They're saying, look, boom, you lot don't like the West, we don't like the West. A lot of people will say, I see in the comments, don't trust Putin, don't trust Russia. Well, you have to make the right alliances. You get me? It has to make sense. It has to fit the agenda, innit? So, obviously, we're actually, history is happening. Like, you got to understand, history is actually happening. Now, if we go into, big shout out to my team, man. Big shout out to you guys. You guys that are watching this, big shout out to you lot, because you lot always educate me. You send me bits, you send me information, and I share the information for other people to see it. You get me? So please just know that I am a student to the game just like you. There's many people in the comments that know more. You get me? So please forgive me if I miss anything out or if I say the wrong information. Now let me flip my screen. It shows a breakdown of like detailed what Putin and Russia has done since 2020 to 2025. You get me? So as you can see, 2020, you get me, it's saying that Russia signed a new military deal with Libya, Sudan, and CAR. Please let me know what CAR means. You get me? A Vagna Group. So obviously they're saying from 2020 they've been doing business. 2021 more progression. You get me? Obviously they're talking about more military. So they're giving their military, like they're giving their forces training, helping training to build up Africa, to make sure that they're competent of defending their country. That's in 2021, guys. 2022, obviously the Ukraine war has happened, you get me, with Russia and Ukraine, and the war's still going on. It's madness, you get me. Obviously Russia blames the West, you get me, for food shortages. Obviously, you know, the West is playing the tactical whatever, you get me, and the UK is right behind them. Right behind them, you get me. Anyway, obviously, they're still doing business from 2021, 2022, you get me? 2022, 2023, you can see the Wagga boss. I obviously, my reading's not great, but something rebel and dies, you get me? Russia rebrands Wagner Ops and sends official military to Africa instead. So obviously, Russia's just been locked in, you get me? Now 2024 to 2025, you get me? I actually got one of my brothers, yeah, get me? I got one of my brothers. See me, everything is really authentic, you get me? Because I'm saying, bro, how do I pronounce this? So, you get me? And this brother here, like, artist, you get me? And where he's from, Sierra Leone, I say, bro, how do you pronounce these things? You get me? Because I just want to flipping make sure I get it right and I don't offend no one. So, he sent it to me.
Yeah, Sahel Alliance.
So Sahel and that alliance is like a group. There's a group of Africa, like where everyone falls in line. So obviously, I told him to look.
Burkina Faso.
Burkina Faso.
Mali.
Mali is another country that is Burkina Faso, Mali, and the. Hey, Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger. You get me? Hey, listen. I'm getting there. So yeah, man. Obviously, it's from 2020 to 2024, 2025, they've been locked in. Russia's been locked in. There's been things that we don't know about, and it makes me realize, actually, there's a lot going on around the world. The man's here just keep on flipping, posting up this, that, and man's not really educating. And now, obviously, that I'm building a YouTube, I actually think I can use some of my videos and actually talk about what's actually going on around the world. You get me? Because there's some deep stuff happening. You get me? But yeah, man, the three countries, you get me? Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger, they're basically one. And if Africa, let me just tell you something. You see, if the whole of Africa unite and there's no corruption and everyone comes under one force, listen, the West is going to be in problems. They're going to be in problems. And what does that mean for Russia? Well, Russia has made a great alliance. Of course, Russia's going to do crazy business with Africa, you get me? Because you was there in need. Like, you was there when the madness was happening and we needed to turn to someone with power. Russia and China is there, you get me? So this is what happens, you get me? And yeah, it's getting real. Every single day, like, there's videos, there's updates, and social media is a powerful thing. You get me? Social media is a powerful thing. So, like, Russia's basically saying, yo, like, forget the West, come roll with us. Man's ready to slap off anything. Sorry, guys, if you're watching this, but we're saying it in that language. Russia's saying, listen, we don't like the West either. They've done us dirty, you get me? They've done little funny things. We've never liked them, you get me? You lot, let's do some business. Let's back you, give us some good deals with what you got, and then we'll go from there, you get me? And obviously, obviously Burkina Faso, they're like, look, this makes sense for us. We definitely can't go to war. We definitely can't chat to America or France. We can't chat to them together. So we need to make alliances. You get me? Now, I'm gonna go through a few other videos so you lot can kind of see updates, what's happening. So you lot kind of are tuned in. So, let me flip my screen. Let's go to this one.
Russia's influence in Africa is growing, including in countries like the Central African Republic. But how did this happen?
Естественно, и президент этой страны, в общем, уже метался в поисках нового союзника, какой-то опоры.
And what does it mean for the continent? The second Russia-Africa summit took place in St. Petersburg in July 2023, showing Moscow's strategic plans for the region. A key player at the time was the Vagna Group, a Russian paramilitary force deployed in the Central African Republic since 2018. At first, they were there to train the army, but soon expanded, providing security, fighting rebel groups, and getting involved in local industries, including mining.
Здравствуй, товарищ! Как дела?
But Russia's presence is not just military. It extends to culture and economics through businesses, media campaigns, and even language courses, reinforcing.
Listen to that. Now, that is where the real infrastructure and wealth is. That's it. Setting out your foundation. Like, that's it. Educating our people. Like, exactly what marketing. It's crazy because it's like, I can put ads on to target people from Africa. And they're very cheap. You can put ads on to target people from Pakistan or India. They're very cheap. But there's not a lot of people in them countries know even how to put on digital ads. You get me? So I can develop musicians like from Africa that live in the UK back home, and they can be everywhere. And all of a sudden, a new star has been born. And this is for musicians that what you don't need to focus on, because sometimes we always focus on the UK, but really you can blow up in all the African places and do your tours, and then obviously have a domino effect and blow up over in the UK. But let's get back to serious. I know I'm going into music, but I'm just kind of letting you guys know like the seriousness of what Russia is doing and the backings. And it's not just, oh yeah, we want to take your oil or whatever. We're actually building your infrastructure and helping you.
Forcing its influence in the country. To some, Wagner provided stability where the French had failed.
Il n'y a pas l'école en province, il n'y a pas de route, il n'y a pas de train, il n'y a rien. Regardez, 2 siècles où les Français sont là.
They don't like the French, boy.
La République centrafricaine a échappé à un coup d'État sanguinaire.
To others, it meant corruption, human rights abuses, and the exploitation of valuable resources.
La MINUSCA documente tout ce qui est violation des droits de l'homme.
Quand nous analysons les rapports des violations des droits de l'homme dans ce pays, il y a notamment ce qu'on appelle ici les autres personnels de sécurité.
Je te donne la sécurité, je prends ton diamant. Ça c'est clair.
And then there's the bigger picture. As French influence declines,
Raw,
Russia
boy.
is filling the space and competing with China and the West in Africa. So what next? With much of Wagner reshaped as the Africa core under direct control of Russia, Africa remains a battleground for global influence. But is this simply a form of foreign intervention?
Потому что африканский проект, он нужен. Это же его способ повлиять на международное сообщество.
Russia isn't leaving anytime soon. But what does this mean for Africa's future? Let us know.
Let us know. Let us know. Anyone that knows a bit more information, let us know in the comments. What does this mean for Africa's future? Let us know.
Did
Please.
you know there is
Let's go into this one.
a Russian shadow army in Africa called the Vagna Group? It's pronounced Wagner. If you've never heard of the Vagna Group, now is the time. Founded by the Kremlin-backed oligarch, the Vagna Group first appeared back in 2014 in eastern Ukraine, and its name has a Nazi origin story. The group's commander, Dmitry Uktin, with a passion for Nazi iconography and the Third Reich, named it after Adolf Hitler's favorite composer, Richard Wagner. Ever since, the Wagner Group has deployed mercenaries.
Guys, let me know if you know information about this. Get me? Literally, I've handpicked these. My team sent me this. We've looked at this, And we're like, look, you guys might know more information, but like I said, I'm learning just like how you lot are learning right now. Just using my platform.
Security contractors and spies in what some analysts say is a strategy to rival Western militaries deployed on the continent. One African country where the Vagna Group is currently drawing attention to is Mali. As we discussed in our recent Operation Backend video, in May-December of 2021, the French government ended its decade-long mission against Islamic insurgents there. This leaves a vacuum of military support in Mali that Russia, through the Vagna Group, appears only more than happy to fill. We at DW News Lagos believe the Vagna Group and its interesting military involvement in Africa deserves way more attention and understanding. Follow us for more updates and information on what the Vagna Group is doing in Mali and elsewhere. And if you have any questions about the Vagna Group in Africa, put them in the comments. We'll do our best to give you an answer.
Listen, that came out 2022. 2022. Like, things has been happening. 2022.
Something historic
Taking this one now.
is happening now, with Russia at its center. Imagine you are a citizen of an African country, and you want to travel abroad.
Free visa, you know.
However, it will take time, because you should have a visa. To get it, you have to apply and state the reason for your visit. Sometimes it can take months, with some countries making it harder for Africans to travel. For example, Donald Trump has revealed a list of African countries whose citizens won't be able to enter the United States. However, when it comes to Russia, President Vladimir Putin is removing borders. In a historic move, Putin has revealed he is working to ensure visa-free travel for Africans. In other words, they just have to make a plan, pack things up, book a ticket, and that's it. That's something even African countries are still working on, to ensure that all Africans can travel visa-free on the continent. But how has Russia succeeded in doing it, and what does it really mean for visa-free travel? In this video, let's know about the whole story. In today's unequal world, the right to move freely isn't just about crossing borders, it's about being seen as human. For far too long, Africans have been treated as second-class global citizens, systematically locked out of countries that lecture them about democracy and human rights. The very same Western nations that looted Africa's wealth and dictated the rules of the global economy now build administrative walls so high that the average African needs to prove their entire life story just to attend a conference or visit family abroad. And this isn't just bureaucracy. It's racism in a visa stamp. Try applying for a visa to the US, the UK, or a European country if you are from Nigeria, Kenya, Ghana, or any other African nation. You will be met with a mountain of paperwork, proof of employment, bank statements showing sufficient funds, letters of invitation, travel history, insurance, hotel bookings, and round-trip flights, all just to prove you won't overstay. Then, after spending hundreds of dollars in fees and enduring months of silence, you are hit with a cold, generic rejection letter. No explanation, no accountability, no appeal. Just
Basically, I'm not gonna play 5 minutes of this. They're basically saying, look, visa, they're even going through that deep, and Russia's saying, look, you can travel. Visas are for free. You can travel in certain places, and we're gonna get this sorted. Like in Dubai, it's mad. I tried to get a cameraman to fly from what part? Where in Africa was he? Anyway, I booked his ticket. I spent like £700. Then realized that he needed a visa. Spent like £400 to do an emergency visa. Then they wanted a guarantor. Like, there was so much stuff that they needed. I just wasted the money. Like, actually, we ended up wasting the money because I didn't know that he needed a visa. It was madness. But yeah, let's get into this one. Let's get into this.
Whoever thinks Putin is a bad guy should be ashamed of yourself. You should be ashamed of yourself. America, England.
2023, you know.
All what we wanted was a piece of rice. A piece of rice. And you didn't do it. So, Russia President Putin just offered 6 African nations. I mean, come on. This is ABC stuff.
Russia just...
Whoever thinks Putin is a bad guy should be ashamed of yourself.
Go watch it again.
You should be ashamed of yourself. America, England, all what we wanted was a piece of rice. A piece of rice. And you didn't do it. So, Russia President Putin just offered 6 African nations. I mean, come on. This is ABC stuff. You know, you can't keep talking about who the bad guy is and the good guy is, and you might not even give a man a biscuit, a piece of rice. Look how long Africa has been starving. And all what we needed. Listen, I'm not sure whose side I'm on, but Putin, you're all right with me, mate. Whoever thinks Putin...
All this content is from like 2022, 2023. Like it's information. Like, I'm going to show you another one. I'm going to show you 2 more. I'm going to wrap it up.
Russia just discovered 50 billion barrels of oil beneath an African nation the world never expected to hold a drop. But what is Russia doing here? In what nation did they find the oil? And how is it going to change anything for Africa?
2021.
In the heart of the Sahel, where cracked earth stretches endlessly beneath a burning sun, you don't expect to strike oil. Burkina Faso wasn't supposed to be that kind of place. There were no legends of gushing wells, no offshore rigs, no powerful oil dynasties. It was known for its cotton, not crude. But in early 2025, beneath layers of sand and silence, a secret was pulled from the ground. An oil reserve so vast, it flipped every assumption about this country on its head. For decades, international companies bypassed Burkina Faso entirely.
This is about oil. Nah, but real talk though. And this is why France is here. This is why France has been kicked out, and this is why they're keeping up a fuss, and this is why they're ready to go to war, because listen, it messes up their money. This messes up their money. Man's talking about 50 billion barrels of oil in Burkina Faso. Did I say it right? That's crazy. That is crazy. Like, let's listen to a bit more of it. That's crazy.
Entirely. The big players, ExxonMobil, Shell, Total Energies, focused on established fields in Nigeria, Angola, Algeria. Burkina Faso? Too dry, too risky, too far from any port to matter. Exploration was minimal. Geopolitical instability scared investors. And yet, right under everyone's nose, a buried empire of oil lay untouched. So, how did Gazprom find what no one else even looked for? The answer begins years earlier, not in Burkina Faso, but in Moscow. As sanctions tightened around Russia, the Kremlin launched a quiet campaign to expand its global footprint. Not with tanks, but with tools, with engineers, with extractors. Africa became the new front, and energy was the weapon of choice. Gazprom, flush with state backing and political incentives, began exploring regions others had written off. For Russia, Burkina Faso was ideal. A country estranged from the West, a government willing to reject the IMF conditions, and crucially, a leadership desperate for alternatives. Traore's military government welcomed the Russians not just as allies, but as partners in a new national vision. Geologists from Gazprom began mapping the northern regions of Burkina Faso in 2023, using advanced seismic imaging and satellite-guided deep surveys. Where Western companies saw barren land, Russian teams spotted anomalies, pockets of hydrocarbons buried beneath geological formations millions of years old. They drilled, quietly, cautiously. No press releases, no diplomatic fanfare, just dust, data, and drill bits. And then in the early days of 2025, the numbers came back. Not small finds, not testable volumes, but something massive. 50 billion barrels of crude. This wasn't just a discovery, it was a revelation. A nation known for exporting migrant labor now had the oil wealth to power entire regions. But the surprise wasn't just the volume, it was the quality. Preliminary assessments suggested the crude was light and sweet, the kind that refines easily into gasoline and commands high prices globally. It's a geological oddity. How did a landlocked country, far from tectonic collisions or ancient deltas, end up with a reserve that rivals entire Gulf states? Scientists speculate that during the late Paleozoic and Mesozoic eras, this region of West Africa was part of a vast inland sea, rich in organic matter, shielded from oxygen, and perfect for oil formation. Over millions of years, sediment built up, trapping hydrocarbons deep below the surface. The region's relative lack of seismic activity preserved these.
I'll be honest with you, lot. Some of you lot told me to cut it down to 25 minutes, but this is so important. It's 18 minutes more and whatnot. I'm not cutting down this, so it's going to be, if you want to watch it in bits, please watch it. But this is something really, really serious. What's happening around the world and something that I ain't even watched this. So I'm watching it with you lot. So just figure it out together. Let's figure it out together, because this is serious.
Reservoirs in a kind of geological time capsule. But why was this never found before? Because no one seriously looked, and the few who did lacked the deep scan tech Gazprom deployed. Western companies often dismissed Burkina Faso based on outdated data and the logistical nightmare of being landlocked. Getting oil out of the country would require massive infrastructure, pipelines, roads, refineries. But for Gazprom, this wasn't a problem. It was a long-term bet backed by Russian geopolitical ambition. Now, with confirmation underway and extraction plans in development, the implications are staggering. This single oil reserve, if harnessed properly, could generate over $3 trillion in long-term revenue at current prices.
Woo!
Even accounting for infrastructure costs, corruption risks, and market fluctuations, it would still rank as one of the most valuable oil finds of the 21st century. But here's what makes this story truly unpredictable. It's not being run by a consortium of Western investors or managed through familiar IMF frameworks. Instead, it's being orchestrated by a country under Western sanctions, in alliance with a military-led government that's torn up the old colonial rulebook and is now writing its own. In a world where energy equals influence, this discovery doesn't just fuel cars, it fuels power shifts, economic realignments, the collapse of Western dominance in parts of Africa. And yet, for all its magnitude, the oil hasn't flowed. Not yet. Burkina Faso's leaders promise the people that this wealth won't be stolen or sold to the highest bidder. They say this oil will be different, that it will build cities, not just bank accounts. But that kind of promise has been made before, in Venezuela, in Angola, in Iraq. So the real question isn't just how the oil got there. The real question is, who gets to control what comes out of the ground? Will Traore give the wealth that belongs to locals to someone else? When the news broke about the 50 billion barrel oil discovery in Burkina Faso, the question in every Western embassy wasn't, is it real? It was, who's going to manage it? And the answer came not from a corporate press release or a diplomatic negotiation, but from a political reality that had been quietly reshaping the Sahel. France is out. Russia is in. To understand how this happened, you have to step back from the oil rigs and enter the halls of power. Because this story isn't just about who owns the oil fields, it's about who Burkina Faso trusts to guard them. Burkina Faso was once one of France's most reliable Francophone allies in West Africa, a cornerstone of what Paris liked to call its private backyard. French troops were stationed on Burkinabe soil. French firms were embedded in banking, telecom, and infrastructure. French diplomats had the president's ear, and for decades the arrangement seemed unshakable. But under the surface, something was festering. To many Burkinabe, France's presence began to feel less like protection.
This is deep. This is deep. Some revolutionary stuff, like history, like this is deep, guys. Yeah, man. Let's take this in.
And more like possession. The military interventions, first under Operation Serval, then Operation Barkhane, were increasingly viewed as ineffective. Islamist violence grew worse, not better. Corruption flourished. Western aid came with strings, and those strings often pulled Burkina Faso in directions that served Paris more than Ouagadougou. So when a young army captain named Ibrahim Traore overthrew the civilian government in 2022, it wasn't just a coup. It was a break with everything France stood for, a symbolic and strategic rupture with the old world order. But Traore didn't just burn bridges, he built new ones. Within months, diplomatic cables showed a new name rising fast in Ouagadougou, Russia. Not through official embassies or trade deals at first, but through backdoor security arrangements, private military advisors, and informal emissaries. Russia knew how to move in silence, and Traore knew he needed a partner with no colonial baggage. The turning point came not in a speech, but in a sequence of decisions that left no room for ambiguity. First, the military government terminated its joint operations with French forces. Then it revoked diplomatic privileges for French NGOs and media outlets. Next came the expulsion of France's ambassador, who was accused of meddling in internal affairs, a rare and explosive diplomatic gesture. By the time France was forced to withdraw its final troops, it wasn't just a military retreat. It was a public eviction notice. France, once the dominant external power in Burkina Faso, had become persona non grata. In its place, Russia stepped forward, and fast. One of the first signs of Moscow's growing grip came when it reopened its embassy in Burkina Faso in late 2023, a move that hadn't happened in over 3 decades. But this was no routine consular reactivation. It was a signal. Russia was planting its flag. Simultaneously, military instructors arrived quietly, not in uniformed convoys but through cooperation missions. Local forces began receiving training, equipment, and strategic support. Russian language programs appeared in elite military academies. And behind closed doors, Gazprom began negotiations to secure exclusive exploration rights in the country's northern region. By the time the oil was confirmed, Russia was already inside the house. But why would Traore trust Russia? The answer lies not in ideology, but in utility. France demanded reforms, elections, anti-corruption drives, all the trappings of democracy tied to its development aid. Russia offered something else entirely, respect for sovereignty, no matter who was in power. Where the West saw a military junta, the Kremlin saw a strongman ally. And Traore, still consolidating power, needed a friend who wouldn't flinch at the word coup. But there was more than just political alignment. There was mutual benefit. Russia, under economic sanctions and energy market isolation, needed new frontiers, both for resource extraction and geopolitical messaging. Partnering with an oil-rich African state gave Moscow exactly that. It wasn't just about the barrels, it was about the symbol, a former French colony, now turning its back on the West and aligning itself with a sanctioned superpower. For Burkina Faso, this wasn't just diplomatic strategy, it was survival. With France gone, it faced growing insurgent threats and rising internal dissent. Russia's willingness to offer military assistance without lectures gave Traore the breathing room he needed. And there's something else often overlooked: the people. Many Burkinabe citizens, especially in urban areas, had grown disillusioned with France long before the elites did. The perceived hypocrisy, fighting insurgent while propping up corrupt regimes, made France's role look less like liberation and more like legacy control. Russian involvement, by contrast, was sold as a clean slate. New friends, new terms, no patronizing. And when the oil news hit the headlines, it fit perfectly into this new narrative. The future of Burkina Faso would be decided in Ouagadougou and Moscow, not in Paris. But alliances aren't just made of sentiment. They are tested in moments of crisis and opportunity. And with the oil confirmed, a new test was approaching: how to use this wealth and who would get the first cut. Because now that the foundation was laid, the vision began to unfold. A vision of highways, refineries, cities rising from desert dust. For most countries, oil is the end goal. It's the money, the power, the thing everyone fights over. But in Burkina Faso, something different is happening. The oil discovery, those 50 billion barrels hidden beneath the Sahel, wasn't presented to the public as a jackpot or a miracle. It was announced as a beginning, a tool, a stepping stone. And what President Ibrahim Traore and his administration are building on that stone is not just economic growth. It's an entirely new vision of what Burkina Faso can become. They're not calling it a petroleum state. They're calling it Africa's next transformation hub. And the blueprint they're following doesn't come from France or even from Russia. It comes from the East, specifically the desert cities of the United Arab Emirates. If you listen closely to the speeches coming out of Ouagadougou today, you'll hear a strange but deliberate echo of Dubai. a once obscure fishing village turned global empire of logistics.
Akhay, come to Dubai, akhay. This is madness, isn't it? Like, just watching it, it's like, wow. Like, it's actually like, wow. Like, guys.
Glass towers, trade zones, and tech parks, all powered in its early days by oil. Not sustained by it forever, but kick-started by it. That's the idea. Oil as a launch pad, not a leash. Behind the scenes, Burkina Faso is drawing up multi-decade infrastructure plans funded not just by oil profits, but by equity in the oil operation itself. Under the terms negotiated with Gazprom, the Burkina state is reportedly securing partial ownership of downstream facilities, including refineries, pipelines, and storage depots. A break from the usual model where African nations only receive royalties or rent while foreign firms take full control of the supply chain. It's not about shipping crude out of the country. It's about processing it at home, adding value, and exporting refined products, gasoline, diesel, jet fuel, not just to neighboring countries, but across the continent. Burkina Faso's Ministry of Energy has already outlined plans for 3 industrial corridors stretching across key regions, north to the Mali border, east to Niger, and south toward Ghana, all centered around energy hubs powered by the new oil wealth. These aren't just refineries. They include new urban zones with planned housing, education centers, and rail lines. Solar-fed industrial parks are designed to combine oil with renewable integration. Transport corridors are intended to transform landlocked status into a logistics advantage, connecting Burkina to regional markets that previously bypassed it. This is where the vision gets bold, and where most outside analysts begin to scoff. Because turning a country like Burkina Faso into a regional trade giant isn't just a question of resources. It's a question of stability, of governance, of time. But the leadership is unfazed. They're counting on people underestimating them. What Traore is pitching isn't utopian. It's a strategic insurgency in the world of development models. He's openly rejecting the Western development through debt trap. No more waiting for IMF disbursements. No more begging for climate funding. If the West won't build a future with them, they'll fund it themselves. And they'll use their oil, their own hands, and their allies to do it. And it's not just about oil. In the past year, Burkina Faso has restructured its mining sector, renegotiated dozens of foreign contracts, and begun establishing national companies to handle everything from gold to grain logistics. The oil money is simply expected to fuel this broader diversification strategy, one that includes a state-run development bank designed to back local businesses, a tech incubation fund aimed at keeping young Burkinabe entrepreneurs from fleeing abroad, and the launch of Les Moulins du Sahel, a grain and food processing project that is already shipping local rice to neighboring countries, a quiet hint at future self-reliance. All of this is being wrapped in what Traore's government calls a new model of African governance, one where resource wealth doesn't trickle, but circulates. To skeptics, these plans sound too ambitious. They ask, how can a country battling insurgents and political volatility become a regional economic hub in a decade? But what they miss is the psychological pivot underway. For the first time in generations, a Burkinabe leader isn't asking for pity or patience. He's asking the people to build, and oil is the down payment. The state is already setting up digital tracking systems for oil revenue, an effort to avoid the corruption traps seen in other African oil states. It's also piloting transparency dashboards, allowing citizens to track which communities receive infrastructure, how contracts are allocated, and how much of the national budget is funded through petroleum profits.
Powerful.
If it works, and it's a big if, Burkina Faso won't just be pumping oil. It'll be pumping legitimacy into its institutions, pumping investment into its industries, and pumping purpose into a nation that's long been treated as disposable by global powers. The stakes are massive, the model is fragile, but the vision is clear. Burkina Faso doesn't want to be the next Nigeria. It wants to be the first version of itself. But every blueprint faces pressure, and as the plan accelerates, pressure is exactly what's coming, not just from within, but from far beyond its borders. But nothing can stop Traore now. Not foreign pressure, not hidden threats, not even the whispers of sabotage behind closed doors. He knows exactly what's at stake, and exactly who's watching. For years, Burkina Faso was treated like a pawn, a place to extract wealth while leaving its people in poverty. France took what it wanted. Contracts were signed without consent. Resources were moved out. And in return, broken promises, empty aid packages, and a cycle of dependency. But this time, it's different. Traore isn't just leading a government. He's leading a correction of history. He wants every drop of oil, every ounce of wealth to benefit the people it belongs to. No more middlemen, no more colonial leftovers, no more development aid that chains the country deeper into debt. He's building something bold, a future where Burkinabe citizens own what's under their feet, and no challenge, no Western headline, no diplomatic backlash can slow him down. Because this fight isn't about politics anymore. It's about dignity, about legacy. And Traore is making it clear. Burkina Faso's future will be decided by Burkinabe hands, and no one else. So will Traore back down? How long will it take Burkina Faso to become what it is planning for? Let us know in the comments section. Can any
Crazy. Listen, that one was crazy. I'm going to play two more, and then, yeah, this one here, I saw a little glimpse. This one actually made me laugh, so I have to play this one because, you know, we need a little bit of humor. You get me?
People, come look pan Judas. Come look pan traitor. So this is what 30 pieces of silver gets you. Ivory Coast. What the hell is General Langley doing in Ivory Coast?
I can't lie. You see General Langley, that sounds like a real name, Jamaican. Who's seen Shotters? I think it's Mr. Langley. Langley was on a bad boy thing. They was trying in Shotters, Langley was on Madness. Now, General Langley is on Madness now. He wants to, he's the bait. Like, he's the face of, like, now everyone's on him. Hey.
And we all know what he's doing there. And you big dirty stinking germs is sitting on that sofa conversating with somebody who wants to take out your fellow African leader. And this is the garbage that they're spewing. Pause to read. This is the garbage talking about, oh, because of our fellow alliances and how we want to help you stop terrorism and all of this stuff in your country. It's a damn lie. They're trying to watch Ibrahim from afar, yeah? And they're trying to plot his unaliving. I don't think you guys understand what this means. Look pan Ivory Coast and look pan Burkina Faso, yeah? And General Langley, who has just accused Ibrahim of taking the gold for himself and, oh, they need to save the Burkina Faso people from their demise and all of this type of shit. He's posted up in this neighboring country and he's a general. And you guys really think, what, he's just over there for peace talks? Are you crazy? Ghana, you're over here quiet as a church mouse. What do you have to say for yourselves? And if you want to know who the dirty rat is, I present to you Alassane Ouattara. He is the one that's having these conversations with the Americans and plotting on Ibrahim's demise. And if there's one thing we know about African leaders, they will give up their batty hole for a couple million. And as I said before in my last video, every single one of you neighboring countries need to stand with Ibrahim.
100%.
Which means if a US general has come over into Africa and he has threatened an African leader's life, you have a right to arrest him. You have a right to deport him back because he is a threat to somebody that needs to be protected. But you know, as they say, all skin folk ain't kinfolk. So I'm talking to the people of Ivory Coast. What are you going to do about this leader right here? People!
She's on smoke. She's on smoke. I'm going to finish it with this.
Hello guys. This is a very sensible video that I want to do. This is a warning to that American soldier who claims they want to overthrow Ibrahim Traore. See, let me tell you something that you don't know. Africans are now wise. Africans are now sensible. Trying to get good schools, good hospitals, good life. You get it? So, you can't just stand up and go to somebody's country, or you can't just stand up to say whatever you want about somebody's country. You get me? This is a warning.
Huh?
You don't know the reason why we decided to be Russians.
I'm here.
You don't know. We're fighting for the truth. We're fighting for the good life, for our future, for our families. So if you think that you are strong and you are brave, only you think you have sat down, you have made your inquiries, so you want to do something to Ibrahim Traore, you are dealing with the whole Africa. And especially, you are dealing with Russian military. You are dealing with us, the Africans in the Russian military. I'm not afraid.
He's not playing
That's why
games.
I'm doing this video. Trying to tell you that if you want to do something, think twice. Any country, I repeat myself, any country who tries again to try to blackmail any African country,
I've had enough.
get prepared. You have to get prepared. So why do you want us to always suffer? You want Africans to always suffer. You want Africans to always suffer. Bad schools, bad road. But all of you, every time you want good life, it's not going to happen anymore. It's not going to happen anymore. Africans are wise. We stand by Burkina Faso. Ibrahim Traore.
Listen, he's not playing games, man. One of their pages. Conclusion, guys. Listen, like I said, there's some deep stuff going on, man. You get me? Every week I'm gonna do one long form piece of content. This is my long form piece of content, which is coming out on a Saturday. You get me? When you like at home, please share, like, subscribe. If you like this, please educate us as well. Educate the people that don't know much about this in the comments. Please share your paragraphs, and yeah, I'll be going through them as well, man. And I'll be definitely be giving updates. And please please message, share. But yeah, man, this one's deep, man. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. And please, yeah, if you are a person that, you support this, just all I ask you to do is just like the video. Just press like on the video. Thank you very much. Peace.